So hi everyone, really glad to be here today with you. I hope we will be able to have kind of like a freestyle session. So you are welcome to interrupt in any point of time, ask questions on the chat or even over voice if you prefer. Today we are going to discuss different aspects of Power Query with different level of technical expertise. So I'm quite flexible also, like if you want me to get a bit more slow, explain some more basic things and fundamental capabilities, I can do that. If you want to see some like more advanced, super advanced capabilities, we will be glad to go through lots of stuff that I have. Just like as a quick introduction about me, because I was kind of invisible for 3 years, and also like in the last year, I'm quite invisible on working so hard on delivering a new solution. So my name is Gil Raviv. I started my career in data analytics more as a kind of programmer, developer on cybersecurity, developing solutions and dashboards and reporting based on informations and log coming from cybersecurity, and then found myself joining Microsoft, the Excel team. It was back in 2013. Was responsible for bringing Power Query into Excel 2016 at the time, and become really in love with everything which was Power BI. After 2 years in Microsoft, I decided to move to consulting, started blogging significantly about Power BI and Power Query. I became a Microsoft MVP, published a book that we will talk a bit about today as well. Over the years, I was part of Avan at Accenture. I was evolving in my role, basically in the end, to be responsible for the capabilities of the entire Power BI practice. So around 300 developers, Power BI developers across the globe. I was kind of responsible for their capabilities and making sure that they deliver with highest quality. In addition to that, at some point I moved to Amazon, to the competitors, and started the practice for global BI with Amazon QuickSight. Transitioned to be a product manager in the competitor product. And in the end, I decided that it's time to move back. So about a year and a half ago, I moved back to Microsoft Fabric Power BI. And I developed a solution that I will mention also a bit in this session. So you will see a bit more about it. So what I wanted to share with you today is focus on Power Query and why I think Power Query is a unique technology, and especially unique technology, even though today we are in a kind of a world where AI is dominating everything. So I want to share my thoughts about that as well. You are welcome also to chime in and say what you know and what you think about this kind of scenario as well. After we'll discuss Power Query and its relevance for today and its importance, I will go through some demos, and I will use in these demos real data from my product, which is VI Pixie. I will explain a bit more about it, but the reason why we will do the demos through the data of my product is because the data is a Power BI data. So you will find it, I think, familiar, and I think it's fun to play with Power Query, prepare data, and handle different data challenges with real data that everyone knows and understand. So that will be the part of the demos. And we also have Q&A in the end. You're welcome also to ask me anytime at any point. I kind of not very methodological with the time, so by all means I can continue through the end of our planned time to to show you different demos, and you can also ask questions. And if you want to know anything about like things in Power Query that you're not very familiar, I can try to show you live as well, so we can do that. And yeah, let's just start. So we will go through the capabilities of Power Query and the uniqueness and importance of it today through different aspects of my book. And I want to also mention my book, not because I'm getting a lot of royalties from it. The book is like most of the royalties comes to Pearson and Microsoft. So it's not the reason why I'm mentioning it. The main reason is basically that there are different areas where the technology of Power Query is like many other things that we have today in technology are becoming kind of questionable, right? You can ask yourself, what is the value of new knowledge when AI can do all the work for me? What is my relevancy in the job market and as a professional when now all the tools that I can learn may not be needed anymore when AI can automate and agents can do all the work for me? So there are lots of questions and uncertainties, and I wanted to go through them and a bit mention like why I think Power Query is very unique in this domain. And especially because the technology of Power Query was evolved in a scenario of self-service analytics, where vendors like Microsoft wanted to empower end users to achieve more with data without getting in a large backlog of items and requests to a centralized BI team on the IT side. And I think that now, as the ability to solve for self-service with Power BI as an example, Excel and Power Query, the success came from the use of user interface and low-code, no-code perspectives and vision. And now when you think about AI compared to low-code, no-code, there is a kind of a mystery. Do we even need no-code or low-code or user interfaces when we can just vibe code our way through any problem and any challenge? So we will talk a bit about that as well. And I think Power Query is unique with that regard. So that's like my book. 2018 was the first edition. Over the 3 years that follow since 2018, the book was translated from English to Mandarin, German, Polish, and the other one, Russia. And in 2024, we released together, me and Daniel Masliuk, as a co-author. We released the second edition, so it's a completely new, updated version of the book, relevant to anything that is Power Query today inside Excel, Power BI, and many, many more. And you know, like early on, Greg, when you introduced the topic and you mentioned that Power Query for Power BI and Excel. So what I do want to show you today is also all the other really cool things that you can use Power Query for, which are outside Power BI and Excel. The main one that is very relevant to all of you is, of course, in Microsoft Fabric, but it's not just there. So I will try to kind of show you some of the capabilities in the other endpoints of Power Query. Yeah, so any questions so far? Like, feel free to ask me anything on the chat or just chime in.
And I'll mention, for those that do ping in the chat, any questions, we'll make sure to bubble those up. Let's make this engaging, right? Like, you're spending your time here as much as Gil's spending his time here. Let's make this valuable for everybody. So if you got questions, do not be bashful.
Thank you, Greg. Great. So let's move on. So a bit about the book and resources that you can use. So I'm not sure how much. Can you just like give thumbs up if you are completely new to Power Query? and I'm now taking advantage of your silence to make you an expert. So if you are not responding, you feel really comfortable with Power Query. Okay? So everyone is very comfortable with Power Query. That's nice. Give me like any emoji if you think you are like that you know enough about Power Query. There is no need to know more. I'm sure we may find some people that will say, why do we need Power Query when we just want to push all the data preparation to the other external ETLs and make them upstream?
And one thing I will mention of our user group, I think a lot of people maybe are past the beginner stage, but somewhere in the intermediate and others in the advanced stage, just from
Okay,
my general rule of
excellent.
thumb. If we have any pure beginners, please let's just take one more minute. If you are a pure beginner, never heard about Power Query, please use the raise hand feature. Because if there are no pure beginners, then I think Gil can be a little bit, jump in a little bit more into the medium to deep end, which I'm not seeing anybody raise their hand. So I believe
great.
I know my group well enough. So
yeah, excellent. Excellent. So here in this screen, I provide you some links related to my book. You can use them even without purchasing the book. The book has exercises that you can download directly from the Microsoft Press page. But in addition to that, just like I wanted to show you here, this is a GitHub, the third link. I'm just clicking on it. And just 1 second, why it's not clicking. So that's a GitHub repository that I published with all the book exercises, and there are a lot of them. And so basically, like typically each one of these chapters, you will find an Excel file, which is a source of the data, and then a solution file, either in a PBIX format or an Excel format, and you have there the steps, the Power Query steps to solve the problem. So even if you are not into purchasing a book, and by the way, we will give 3 digital copies for 3 of the participants today. So please stay tuned for that. So if you are, I see we are 18 people in this room, so 1 to 6% probability to get a book. But even without a book, you have all the exercises there, and some of them include also updates, because a lot of the things that are changing by Microsoft, I will try to do my best to keep everything also updated. So for example, chapter 13 in the book was a solution about sentiment analysis. So you can see here, if you see updated in this data, let me just open it to show you the actual file. So I'm opening this file. And this is a solution that is using Azure. I forgot even the name of the service. In the past, we had Azure Cognitive Services, and there was a sentiment analysis endpoint. Microsoft made some changes there. So basically, you will find here when you open the Power Query editor of this file, you will find here an implementation that is taking from you a resource name, an API key for the text analytics API, and it will implement for you the sentiment analysis inside Power Query. So this is like the specific code using the web content connector to implement the cognitive services API. If you worked in the past with Power BI data flows Gen 1, I don't remember, it wasn't in Gen 2, I think, with the AI functions capability. I think it was also in the Power Query inside Power BI desktop. There was a button that you clicked, and it allows you, if you use Power BI Premium, to run sentiment analysis and other AI calls through Power BI just by clicking a button. Microsoft decommissioned this feature. So this is one of the ways that you can replace the logic by just calling the same cognitive services API on your own. So this is just an example of something that you can get from the book without purchasing the book. Okay, so you see these are the results with the sentiment analysis and the scores. So yeah, you can consider that if this is something that you think is relevant. Okay, so that was just like one resource that you can use. The other resource, which is, I admit, very, very quiet, but you are welcome to use it, is a forum in my blog. So here, basically, this is more for me, like when you are sharing knowledge or you write stories, sometimes you have the author block, how do you say, the writer block, right? So for me to find new ideas for sharing with the community, one way to do it is by asking the community for giving me some tough problems to solve. So here in this forum, you can just register and share any problem that is Power Query related, and I will do my best to solve it. And if you also agree to share with me some kind of a demo sample data, we can write together the solution, publish it on my blog, and of course it will be under your name as the guest author. So just like another resource for you to consider. You can see it's all empty here because I just like did it. I released it like 2 months ago and didn't publish it to anyone. It's basically, I'm not into a volume kind of thing. I'm more about like getting kind of random great ideas from people that are engaged enough. So this is a resource for you that if you are into solving some problem that you cannot be able to solve on your own, this is a way to do to let me try to help you. And this is all free of charge. So, just challenge me if you want. Okay. So now I want to start talking a bit about the importance of Power Query, and we'll just go through some chapters of my book just for the context and for the structure, not because of anything else. And so yeah, let me just very quickly go here. The next slide. So Power Query, how it all started back in 2011. Power Query team that was called at the time Data Explorer developed a cloud-based solution that was an add-on to SQL Azure Labs on Azure and tried to provide UI-based capabilities to perform data preparations. After some time, they realized that this is not going to be a very successful endpoint or a host for the technology. Definitely because at the time, a lot of the data engineers were all into writing code. And if you expose to them a different technology using user interface, they will not be very happy to use it instead of all the sophisticated code capabilities that they have. And you can see here a hint of like today when the entry point of writing code becomes so low. I hope that everyone in the past that was like very high into very super sophisticated SQL queries now will be more open to absorb any technology to get the job done rather than keep kind of maintaining the sophistication of writing very complex code. So this is how they started, and they realized at the time that it's better to go into basically the common lowest denominator and expose the technology to data analysts. So the idea was to take the implementation and build an Excel add-in instead of going into the data engineers on Azure. So the first version of the solution was an add-in that was introduced in Excel 2010. You could just download it and add it to Excel, and it was all free, so you could use it and enjoy the benefits of Power Query. At the time, it only loaded the data into your worksheet, but later on in Excel 2013, the capability came to be allowing you to use the data, to prepare data and load it also into Excel Power Pivot. So that was 2013. In Excel 2016, and this is where I joined the team as well, we took the add-in and kind of restructure it as a native Excel functionality. So in Excel, while in Excel 2013 you could use Power Query, you got it out of the box inside, if I remember correctly, you didn't need to install it in Excel, but it was still an add-in. In Excel 2016, we solved all the problems of a first-class citizen in Excel for Power Query and allow Excel to operate with Power Query in a more native way. So you can find it in the ribbon. You could use VBA, for example, to operate queries, to automate queries, to feed M code into queries in Excel. You could do undo, redo, control V, control Z, all those elements, copy paste of elements, and Power Query behaved like a feature in Excel. Later on, Power BI was released, so Power Query was the main entry to getting data into Power BI. And over kind of like the month that follow, you could refresh semantic models with Power BI on the gateway. I mentioned here the gateway is a separate endpoint because sometimes when there is a new connector that you can find in Power BI desktop, it may not automatically be refreshable on the service because the service has all the binaries of Power Query as a separate cadence. So a new connector may only work on the desktop. After several months, you should find it, hopefully, if it's a mature enough connector, you'll find it in the service as well. And if it's a VNet, so you can also, through a gateway, you'll be able to refresh that connector. In around, I don't remember the year, but it was, I think 2018, 2019, Power Query team started to be like super successful beyond Excel and Power BI, and many other products wanted these capabilities. So different teams started to integrate with Power Query. You could find it in Azure Analysis Services. You could find it also in the SQL Service Analysis Services, the on-prem version. I remember using it in some projects. It was kind of like didn't work like super easy and had a lot of challenges to make it working, but it still solved a lot of time. So just to give you an example, you could go with Power Query against data that would be, I would say, let me try to remember. It's around like 500 gigabyte of data in a warehouse, and a team of many developers for a year building an analysis services model and try to build on top of it an embedded Power BI solution that will provide them better experience compared to Tableau embedded experience, all from the same like Azure and SQL instances. So like the ability to go there in a team and use Power Query in the early POC and prototype phases was a game changer. So even if to scale up later on performance-wise, you would want to replace the Power Query logic with more backend SQL logic, the ability to be agile was super important in those kind of scenarios back in 2018. Moving forward, other teams deployed Power Query, so you could find it in Power Apps as well. It was kind of a strange use case. I'm not sure even if it's still there. But from within Power Apps, when you develop a Canvas app, you add the user interface to allow you to get data from a Power Query Online, which the latest version of it is 2 blocks here on the right. That's like the Power Platform data flows, and I hope I will show you a bit about that as well today. At around the same time, Power BI Data Flows Gen 1 was released. Before it was called, of course, Gen 1, right? So Gen 1 was a data flow that you could use either for free if you use Power BI Pro license, but you would need to kind of be very creative and not very effective on how you reuse items, because in data flows, when you start reusing different elements and using references, for example, you would need to use the paid version of data flow, which was at the time Power BI Capacity. If you don't have the budget, then you can be very creative. So here, for example, very advanced knowledge of Power Query, and now you can move logic into a single M code or query, allows you to bypass the restrictions of the license. And if you have a customer with low budget, at least you can start with the Gen 1 without references and without storing any staged entities of the data, and that allowed you to do lots of things even without the capacity. Obviously, if you had the capacity, it opened up many interesting scenarios to reuse logic and also to speed up the refresh as well. So around the same time, you could also find for centralized data integration teams and more enterprise ETL, you add the Power Query also inside SSIS and inside Azure Data Factory. For at least 2 years, it was in a preview mode and was very, very glitchy. And I guess at that time, they already kind of thought to themselves that I was not there, and I cannot, everything I share with you is from like an outsider without any confidential information here. But I guess with Azure Data Factory, at some point, they stopped investing on making it better and instead started working on Data Flows Gen 2. And when Microsoft Fabric was released, Dataflow Gen 2 was a very interesting option, especially for the community of Power Query practitioners. Now you can say performance-wise, yes, Power Query is not Databricks and not Spark, and it's not distributed computing technologies and big data. And for that, it will always be slower than what you do with big data using Spark and other technologies. So for example, with Microsoft Fabric, if you have a lot of data, you will probably want to use other tools other than Dataflow Gen 2. However, having said that, there are lots of areas where Dataflow Gen 2 is super important and useful, and we can discuss them as well. The one I think that is not mentioning, I'll actually mention it like in a few minutes, so in a minute from now, but just like the last thing that I wanted to mention is also now, today, inside the Power BI service, you also have the Power Query experience inside your browser, so you can edit your semantic models, not just at the level of the DAX measures, but also at the level of the queries. So this, I think, is an important option. One good example for that can be Mac users. You can now edit Power Query from your Mac computer using the Power Query Online, even if it's for the semantic model. So now when we take all this kind of like evolution of Power Query evolving and finding itself into multiple products, some of these products may not be kind of super relevant today compared to Fabric, right? For example, SSIS, right? And Azure Data Factory, or there is an evolution of consolidation into Fabric. But still, when we look about everything today, there are four elements, four very successful products where Power Query is available there. Today, unlike all the last 8 years of evolution, where you add a lot of pain points and glitches in different products that just integrated with Power Query. Today, you have these four endpoints: Excel, Power BI, Power Platform, and Fabric, Microsoft Fabric, where Power Query is very evolved. I would say definitely everything which is Power BI and Fabric, there you'll find like the top tier of capabilities, but also things are getting into Excel through the cadence of Office updates, and Power Platform, also very interesting capabilities there because it's all kind of cross same logic that you use in Excel or Power BI. You can just move it into a Power Platform or Fabric. Most of the things will be supported for you, and the impact for those things is not just about the fact that you have these four products to use. It's about the personas of the users that benefit from those solutions, right? So you have the data analysts and business users in Excel, and in Power BI, the same kind of personas, perhaps more kind of experts and BI developers, even though lots of the BI developers were also 10 years ago, were all into Power Pivot in Excel. So, but you have this kind of like community of users that we are all familiar with. But now, thanks to Power Query inside Microsoft Fabric and Power Platform, it opens up to new personas lots of potential. So for you, as people that are very familiar already with Power Query, there is also an opportunity for you to make a bigger impact for those teams. So I'll start with Power Platform. Low-code app developers can now use Power Query to prepare their data. ETL developers on the IT side that perhaps today are using pipelines in Fabric or PySpark to prepare data, you can offer them in some scenarios to use instead the Dataflow Gen 2. And even for data scientists, some areas, even though inside Fabric, you have another kind of complementary competitor for preparing data, even if it's either if it's the Python notebooks or the low code, no code. I forgot even the name. The Data Wrangler tool that allows you to use similar to Power Query capability to generate Python code. So all these things are amazing and great, but you cannot compete with the maturity of Power Query and the way that the team that developed it solved the right balance between user interface and code, and that can bring you many capabilities. So when you think about the destinations of all those products, it gives you also a better thinking about how you can make bigger impact to the relevant teams. So Power Platform, anything that you use data flows in Power Platform can be stored as Dataverse tables. And Dataverse tables are the entry point for everything in Dynamics and Power Platform. So different apps and different logics of ERP and CRM. Now with Dynamics, you can basically be the champion of bringing data into this ecosystem and perhaps innovate and be very agile on the way that data can be ready there. The other element, and this is relevant for everything else, is also the data quality aspects of Power Query. The ability to use the preview pane to see the data, the profiling features, and the ad hoc capabilities of just like, if you think you have some data quality issues, you just click few buttons and you can prove if you indeed have issues or not. The ability to create this kind of data quality ad hoc tools as part of any pipeline that you have can allow you to be very impactful in those payloads. And the last one with Fabric, you can see with Dataflow Gen 2, here's a list of all the data sources today that you have as destinations. So Azure SQL databases and Custo and Data Lake Gen 2 and the Lakehouse table and more. Those elements basically bring you the notion that you can now be very significant if you choose to use Power Query as part of your portfolio. I'll pause here now just to check if you have any questions. No questions? Okay. Yeah. Anyone, feel free to chime in.
Not seeing any questions in the chat. Again, if you have a question, feel free to come off mute. Or if that history lesson was so good, I'm sure people just want to see demos go.
Yeah. Now we'll do that now.
Awesome.
Okay.
Well, this was a great history lesson though. And I was just messaging in the chat, knowing where and how these engines have come to be is so important. It helps you kind of dissect, sometimes problems even, especially when we're working across so many different technologies and platforms where Power Query lives.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh, we do have a question. The Power Platform versus Fabric. How would you describe that difference? Good question.
Okay, so let me just even show you that. Okay, so I'm now not here. Just 1 second. The other browser, this one. Okay, so you see, I'm now on my Power Apps environment. Okay, and here you see I have on the left side data flows. By the way, many users will not see that here. It's hidden because it competes with so many features. I can say for sure, if you will go, and I was I was 5 years in Accenture Avanade, hundreds of thousands of different people, many experts in Power Platform. I think at the time it was 4 years ago, but this functionality was already available. I think it was close to zero people knowing that there is Power Query inside Power Apps and Power Platform to develop solutions for them. I would bet that even today, nobody really knows too much about it. And everyone who is above the average Power Query user, this is amazing opportunity. Like the things that you can do in Power Platforms if you just have the access, it's the same magic that with Power Query is available here. I'll mention a bit of the differences, but just like to show you the capabilities. So if you will go to your Power Apps, makepowerapps.com and select the environment that you are working on. Under more, you will find here, right? And this is also kind of like, see how funny it is. The different items here that you can select from. Data flows is the last one, okay? So this also shows you kind of the state of mind of all that. So yes, definitely experts in Power Platform don't give a lot of attention to this little last but not least item. So if you just click here on the data flows, you'll go to this screen, and here you can create your first data flow, and you can select it from here, and you get the same experience as Fabric Gen 2, or I think it's most likely, I would guess it's more like a Gen 1, and you can use it from here. Let me just show you here very quickly. So one of the differences between Fabric Gen 2 and Dataflow, the differences, I would start by saying the major difference is destinations. So with Dataverse, with Power Platform data flow, your main destination, I think your only destination most likely, sorry, not the only, you have another one. So it's Dynamics. So you can create tables in Dynamics, but you can also optionally bring your own ADLS Gen 2 and store prepared data there as well. So obviously you would prefer to do it with Fabric, but this is something that you have and you can use and try. And Fabric, obviously, you have more options of destinations, and obviously new features will come in Dataflow Gen 2 before you find them in Power Platform. And this is just my guess based on the kind of attention that the different products receives. But I do want to show you here in the demo. So I have here a pipeline in Power in Fabric. Okay, so you can see this is like I have here all these items are different data flows. And I can now select, let's select one of them. So I'll take, for example, let's pick one. Actually, another important difference between those elements is the pipelines. So you can see I have here also a pipeline. In the pipeline, if you use data flows, you can also use it with, I think, Dataflow Gen 1, if I remember correctly. But here I have a pipeline, and a lot of the logic in this pipeline is lots of data flows. So the pipelines in Fabric helps me. This is a difference from what you have in Power Platform. Power Platform doesn't have pipelines, and you would need to use your own code or manual refresh of the data flows in the Power Platform. I would suspect that you may, let's just try it out. So you see I can select a new data flow from here. And then when I edit it, let's just open it and try to edit. Sorry, I need to do it here. For a second, I was in a panic. Where is the edit? Yeah, I'm moving around between lots of different products. Is sometimes you get disorientation. So here you can see in the data flows. Okay, so it's only Gen 2. That's a bummer. You can only use Gen 2 data flows in this element. So again, if you have a Power Platform data flows, you will need to orchestrate them outside Fabric, but you can use Power Automate because there is a trigger, not a trigger, an activity in Power Automate to refresh data flows. So you can use that to orchestrate a sequence of dependencies of different data flows. But what I want to show you now between like the two elements is I can take, for example, I have here a nice data flow that is taking data from Power BI activity logs. So let's just go to this one. I think double clicking here. Oh, where is that? That's like annoying. There was a way to double click, I think, to open the data flow, and I cannot see it now. Probably from, yeah, that's strange. Oh, okay, now I suspect I have a problem with my mouse. So you see now I opened the data flow in Gen 2. Okay, so some of the cool things about Power Query in Gen 2 is capabilities that you don't have with the same level in Power BI Desktop. I think, by the way, last month, you should see more Power Query editor in Power BI Desktop, more capabilities, perhaps all of the capabilities as in Dataflow Gen 2, but I'm not sure. If you are familiar with it, you're welcome to correct me. But basically now, just like to show you, you would have here, let me find some query that will be more basic. So you see here in the applied steps, you'll be able to see which elements are query folding, meaning that Power Query can push the logic. Some of the data prep logic can be pushed upstream to the data source, so you can find them there. Another unique thing about Power Query Online is under the view. So if I will go here under view and select diagram view, it allows you to see all the logic in a very, let me remove where is that? The schema, yeah, I will just remove the data view. This one. No, I forgot which one is the one that I always skip the preview, so that's why I'm kind of lame here. Let's just expand. So you can see in this experience the entire logic of your queries, right? And which are way better in terms of understanding the lineage, and you can make the actual edits from here. This is very equivalent to other ETL tools like Alteryx and many others. But now when you have these capabilities, obviously, if I will open Power BI desktop, in Power BI desktop, the capability is this one. So I'll go to the view and then select, sorry, I'll open Power Query Editor, and inside Power Query Editor in Power BI desktop, I can go to view and see query dependencies, and you can see like this is a read-only experience that is not like super useful. Okay, so I have that here. Now, when I go to Power BI, let's see how the same logic, right? So I have this query, and I want to see how this logic is translated into Power Apps. So there are several ways that you can move queries from one product to another. The first one that the team that Microsoft released was the ability to use Control-C, Control-V, copy-paste. So if I will just go here, you see I have lots of queries and tables and things. If I will just use Control Shift A, I think, right? You see I just selected all of these elements, and I will do Control-C, right? I will go now, if I will go now to Power Apps Data Flow, and I'm creating a new data flow from blank. Let's call this one demo data flow, and I'll select create. By the way, just one thing to mention, I think this is important. If you want to use data flows for data quality scenarios, and you want to use it for example, on the dynamic side, like for you work with a team and you have CRM, ERP data in Dynamics, and you want to use data flows for data quality scenarios, by clicking analytics entities, data flow here will use ADLS Gen 2 to store the data there, and every refresh of the data flow will have a snapshot of the data. So you can use those snapshots to kind of go back in time and compare different elements in tables. This is, I think, super useful, especially in Dataverse, where if you don't have big data there, right, it's easier to use Power Query to do this kind of data quality checks. So you can do that by clicking on the analytics. And probably since I do it last time, you had more options. You can see here that you have, when I selected it, I can either store the snapshots in Dataverse tables. So think of them, these are not the production Dataverse tables. These will be a kind of test staging elements to allow you to have different snapshots. Let me just see the question. I wonder how much of my capacity will be used. So this is a great question, and I'll tell you the good news: zero capacity. Okay, data flow in Power Platform are relevant for the environment of Power Platform. You pay for data flows there as part of your power apps, your environment. I'm sure that there are thresholds depending, right? The licensing of Power Apps and Power Platform, by the way, you need to be PhD. At least when I was in consulting on like all things Microsoft, that was like super complex things to know. And I know that there is a volume-based, capacity-based for Power Platform or user per user. So if you ask about the Power Platform capacity, yes, so this will affect capacity. If it's if you thought about it like a Fabric capacity or that, right, they are completely disconnected. I think definitely if you use per user, you can exploit that for sure. And the same way that I was kind of exploiting Gen 1 data flows in a Power BI Pro, I can tell you examples of bringing in Gen 2 an entire Salesforce data of millions of contacts and opportunities into Power BI semantic model with Gen 1 without any capacity. So I'm kind of using the shared capacities of the Power BI Pro licenses to do heavy lifting. So I would guess if you use environment per user here in Power Platform, you can do lots of interesting things here. So here you can choose between Dataverse or your own storage. In this case, DataChain Lake 2. It's like a storage account at ADLS Gen 2 that I assigned into this environment. But let's just keep this for now, and I will click Create. And now you can see if I will go and select, just for me, typically what I do, remember, I want to copy paste queries from Fabric Gen 2 to Power Platform. So I'm clicking blank query and just next, just to move to the next step. And now you see I have the Power Query editor with a dummy query that I don't need. I can delete it. All right, so now I have nothing here, but all I want is just the queries pane. So any queries pane that is using of Power Query editor, you can use it to move queries from one place to another, from Excel to Power BI, from Power BI to Excel, from Excel to Dataflow Gen 2, Gen 1. It's like from everywhere to everywhere, copy paste allows you to do that. So let's just demonstrate here. We'll go back to the data flow, and I already selected all these items, and I will just do Control C. And now I will go here and do Control V. Okay, so now I have all these elements here, and I just need to do some configuration on the data sources, right? This is just like just to give you examples of, we go back to the first question, what are the differences between Power Query and in Power Platform and Power BI and all the others? So here is one of the example. In my case, I have an Azure storage account, ADLS Gen 2. And the only way for me to connect to it is using the organizational account. While if I'm using all the other elements, I can use like all the other authentication methods. So here is an example perhaps of something that now I will need to kind of figure out how to solve that by fixing some stuff, because that may not work for me if I will just use my account, but let's just try it out. So I'm just using connect, and now, right, like you will start getting all the data. In my case, I already know this is invalid because what I would need to do is not to use the container. I'm connecting to a container here, and when I'm using my own OAuth authentication, my own Azure account to do this login, I need to provide only the storage account without the container, at least from my experience. So yes, there are nuances, differences. Those differences will probably be related either to some unique, more modern experiences on consumption or connectors, either source connectors or destination connectors. Okay, but this is, I think, super helpful, especially on things that are related to dynamics and ERP, CRM scenarios. Definitely something worth looking at. And I think the beauty of it is that it stores the data in a dataverse, which, right, it has so many interfaces for business application development. Okay, so let's move on to something I think more interesting. Another example of like how you can export different elements in data flows and Power BI, Power Query. Because the team developed the solution to different products, it was important to allow this kind of export import experience, right? So I mentioned that we can just do copy paste also, right? So let's just also prove it that we can do it even in Excel, right? So I'm opening a new Excel, and I will go to data, queries and connections. So you see I have the queries here. It will not be pasted if I do it here, at least as far as I remember. But if I will just go and start, I will launch the Power Query editor. So again, the same thing, I will just paste it in the queries, and I have it here as well, right? And now we can just see, okay, this is good news. So in my case, Excel is more supportive than Power Platform in terms of the connectors. I can use SAS token, and I have one, so I can just like use it and do lots of interesting things. Okay, so that was one way, copy paste. You'll find it useful. And I think the beauty is if you already have you achieved already some success in a solution that you build, and there is some complex Power Query there that you understand, even if you don't remember it so well, now with ChatGPT, it can help you add comments and explain a bit what the logic is, right? And you can kind of get back to that. But the beauty is that now you can go to different teams and offer them based on the destinations that they have for Power Query. You can now expand and solve them different problems. So I think this can be an interesting thing. Okay, so I want to, any other questions? I want to go to show you a few more demos, but just before I do that, just wanted to mention one more element regarding AI and low code and no code. In slides, I think you'll find it relevant. So this is a graph for my book based on intuition. It's not that I make like a lot of research, but it shows you in your journey when you use Power Query, how many problems you can solve just by using the UI without knowing anything about the M code of Power Query. So here I'm basically, and basically I'm saying here something around like 40% of all the problems on Earth, the business problems with data on Earth, right? The UI will be able to solve, so you don't need anything about M code. Just use the UI, you'll solve 40% of the problem. If you just do some lightweight tweaking in the formula bar, you will get to 60%. If you know how to customize, to create custom columns, instead of calculated columns in DAX, you will use Power Query and add columns there. So if you know how to write simple M code in those columns, you'll solve 80% of the problems. And then if you can create functions, then you solve 95% of like everything. So, and now like today, when you think about it, okay, so basically with a very good UI that is attached to code, you can basically skip knowing too much of the code and be able to solve almost everything. So now like things changed a bit because now when you have UI that can generate M code, you can basically think, okay, what about now all the generative AI and ChatGPT and cloud and all the smart and great people that are sharing all the knowledge of how they do things just by vibe creating the M code or anything else that is just not related even to Power Query, but the idea of AI being able to generate the M code for you is something that makes sense, right? It works in many use cases, but the area where it won't be 100% bulletproof is that if it does for you things that you don't really understand, there is around 10% probability that what you have there will hunt you down some point in the future. So if you stay in the same job, and you work a lot with ChatGPT and Claude and many things, and even by operating in, right, I can go to, just to give you an example, I have here, just like to show you, not this one, I'll just, yeah, I have it, I think this is the one. So I have here a Visual Studio with all the Fabric workspace that I showed you early on. And it also has inside, in one of the files here, you can see that I have the data flows here, right? So and the Power Query code is here, right? So I can try my luck and go here in the chat, create a new chat, and I'm using a Copilot extension in VS Code. And I can now, when I have this element here, I can ask explain the M code here, right? And it will explain the M code for me. Right? I don't need to just to copy paste in the ChatGPT the experience. I can get all the information here, which is amazing and great. But what I'm trying to argue here is that, like, if you don't understand what it recommends to you, there is for sure like 10% of the things that you will do there are not optimized and will hunt you down the road. And if you don't understand them, then you will spend a lot of time on trying to fix things just because you kind of make the shortcuts of not understanding what the LLM recommends for you to do. So I would say, going back to this argument, I am not saying to you, stop using AI. I would say take AI with two arms if you can in your organization. I also know some organizations are slow in adapting it in some scenarios, especially where you have the data. So perhaps your Power Query code is stored in a place where your organization will not allow you to use any Gen AI technology inside it, which, this may be another discussion and a challenge. But I would say, even if you can use it, be very cautious about it and try at some point for things that you don't really understand what the AI provides. Write down some to-do items. Here are the section. This is the query that I didn't understand, and it works, so I will just use it, but it will go back to you at some point, so just try to understand it. And the thing I wanted to say here, this is where I think the UI of Power Query really shine together with AI, is that now with the user interface, you have two use cases that are really amazing. The first use case is data quality. So AI is amazing, but without good data, it will not work well. And also, if it doesn't work as expected, the only way to validate its correctness is by looking at the output. In many cases, the output is data, right? So knowing Power Query allows you to do a lot of the data validation elements of the AI output using Power Query. So here the UI is very helpful as well, because not always you will be able to just rely on the generative AI to get what you need. And definitely at some points, it will generate something that you don't want. And just knowing Power Query really well will allow you to do it not, I don't think, slower than what you get from AI in many cases, especially if it's like more advanced with many, many steps. The other thing here is that the UI of Power Query can help you in another area. So imagine now that you have something super complex to do, and you want to do it with another code, perhaps with Python, with PySpark, and you use all the AI tools to generate code for you, and sometimes you're not lucky and you don't get what you need. So now imagine that you'll just take a sample of the data and use the user interface of Power Query, because there you know how to demonstrate the thing that you want to solve in a large scale with Python or PySpark. So you use Power Query, and the M code that you generate in Power Query now can be fed into the generative AI interface, and you can then use it as a requirement for the PySpark that you need to develop. So generative AI are great in converting code, and they understand code. So instead of in a natural language to explain what you need, where the AI can misinterpret what your requirements are, you use the M code as a requirement, and it will just generate the Spark code or any other technology that you would need, and it allows you to keep the agility of your solution with this approach. Yeah. So if you don't, I'll wait if you have any questions, and we can go to another demo. Anyone? If you can just like give me like any thumbs up, thumbs down, like if you are not interested, if you think it's kind of like I'm not giving you like anything interesting to know, or think we can kind of.
Who's awake, basically?
Sorry?
Just making sure y'all are there. Yeah.
Do we know if there's a plan to unify the querying of between the tools so you don't have to copy and paste?
Yes. So I think I'm not sure you'll probably have unification at the level of the user interface. And you already have some unification related to the formats. So just like to show you here, if I will go quickly to again to the Power Platform, I can basically import. This one. I can go here and create a new data flow. Okay. Sorry, just 1 second. Not this one, this one. Okay, you see import template. I can bring a PQT file into Power Platform, and I think it will be cross-platform. So you can bring PQT files from Dataflow Gen 2, I think Gen 1 as well. Definitely Gen 1. Gen 1 to Gen 2, it's quite easy to do this kind of migration. Actually, I can even do a demo to show you that. And you can have the PQT as a way to pass the logic between the platforms. To think about like a one host kind of solution where it's all in the same place, and it doesn't matter which product you use it. Not sure if that will make sense to do in terms of like giving the current focus to run, fast on Fabric. So Fabric is the number one priority, right? So it's better for the team to make more value in Fabric rather than to go back now and be able to solve a unified experience across everything. But this is just my assumption here. I don't have inside knowledge there.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, it's great that you could share the query across the apps. It's just that you're duplicating
Yeah,
code,
that's, I think.
code essentially, and then when
Yeah.
they get out of sync, it's
All
like
right, so
which one's
just you
true.
see, yeah. So if you see my Power Query editor in Gen 2, I can export template. Right, let's call it data flow Gen 2. Okay, and I can save it. And now if I will go, I think let's even try Gen 1. I can go here and create, and let's pick a workspace. So I'm in a workspace here, and different one. I'll go to new item and select Gen 1, data flow Gen 1. Yes, I want to, I see it kind of, they want me to click the green button, but no, I want the Gen 1. By the way, the Gen 1 is still a valid use case if you don't have budget. You don't have budget, you can do so much in Pro. So yeah, so I'm using Gen 1. And now you can see that I have import model, and I can go to my download folder, and hopefully, where was that? Where did I download it? Sorry, where was it? I think I lost it. Yeah, I'm not sure if, let me see. Yeah, it's here. Could it be the extension? Let me try again. Perhaps it's only.
It's in the cloud.
Yeah, so I'm going back to the other browser, and let's try it. And not this one, this one. I have some problem. So yeah, import model. Okay, yeah. So that's okay. So it was a JSON in Dataflow Gen 2, Gen 1. Sorry. I'm curious about it. So I have here, I'll go to Gen 1. I have here a workspace with Gen 1. Let's just open it. Workspaces, Gen 1. So this is a workspace with the same logic that I kind of, like some complex stuff are available here. And let's see if I have any. So the most, my favorite feature is if I have a legacy Dataflow Gen 1 and I want to move to Fabric. And again, the main reason to do that is when you use Fabric, you have more features, you have more destinations. Gen 1 Dataflow can only store the data in an ADLS Gen 2 that is either managed by Microsoft and you cannot access, or if you bring your own ADLS Gen 2, it will allow you, like your own Azure account, you can assign it to the workspace, and then you can have all the data of your data flows accessible in a storage account. But then you can use Power BI to connect directly with the prepared data and bring it into a semantic model, right? So in this case, it's Gen 1. If you want to move to the many other destinations, you want to do this kind of migration. So here I'm saving it as a data flow Gen 2. And you see now when I will do a create, it will now generate a new copy. It will copy the data flow and will generate now a Gen 2. So I have it ready. I don't need to export, import. I don't need to copy, paste. It's kind of like everything here is functional. I just need to configure the data sources and everything should work. Okay, so that's like the migration story between the two. Any more questions regarding that? Okay. So before we move to our kind of main demo with lots of data prep and things like that, I wanted to show you and mention a bit like what I'm working on these days. And that's basically a solution called BI Pixie. If you are familiar with Power BI and you in a use case where you want to monitor users' adoption, the adoption of your reports, the performance of your reports, data governance, unused reports, unused items, license utilization. There are many, many different use cases where Microsoft provide you information to monitor the activities on top of Power BI. And what I found then, this is something that I saw 6 years ago, started to see that there isn't enough information if you want to be successful with the delivery of your reports. And the main element is basically the idea that when you are using Power BI, the main information that you get is either performance related or just report views or page views. And I wanted to fix that, implement that that problem. And this is where I developed a product called BI Pixie. And I wanted to do a demo about Power Query with the data there because the data is the data that you are familiar with. But just like to show you, if you give me just 1 minute on the kind of showing you what I'm building today. So when I quit Amazon a year and a half ago, I decided to start my own business on consulting, but pretty soon I realized that consulting alone is not exciting enough for me, and I built this solution. And basically, it brings the usage information to the next level. And I just want to show you a demo about it, and then we will go with the data from that demo. So I have here a Power BI report. You see the Power BI report. This report in Power BI is already with BI Pixie sits on top of. So basically, BI Pixie is a technology that gets all the usage data that you can get today from Microsoft, like Power BI activity logs, Azure Log Analytics, workspace scans to see all the inventory of your reports, semantic models, and their lineage. But it also does something additionally. It's basically taking your Power BI reports, and it can instrument them and add pixels that will allow you to collect smart information about the context of what users are doing in the reports. So for example, here you see in this report that I have, the data clicking on things in the report will be collected in the table here. So just like to show you very quickly, if you see this screen here, I will just go and uncheck
Wait,
this
Gil,
one.
can I pause you for a moment? Did
Yeah.
I just hear you were providing telemetry at a pixel basis for Power BI reports?
So the pixels are the technology that I took from the vision of like our web apps are providing heat maps and usage from reports, and I took this approach, implemented with native table visuals inside Power BI. So little table visuals that act like pixels, so nobody will care about having them there on kind of the top right corner of your reports. And now when you click on different things, you can see here like the dashboard that you can use from the product. And by the way, I didn't mention the product for one report and 100 end users consuming the report is free. So you can use without paying anything.
That is such important information, like for anybody who's on this meeting that develops and shares reports. That has been telemetry we've been begging for Microsoft for like years, right? And there's nothing better than being able to not have to ask anybody, hey, have you used my report? Hey, what did you like? What did you not like? Let the clicks do the talking.
Yeah.
Right.
So just to give you an example, I have here on the top left table all the reports that I'm tracking. including users, monthly active users. But now, when you get for Microsoft only page views, you cannot differentiate between active and passive users, right? Someone can open the report and do nothing and hate you about the report. And another someone, perhaps even an executive, can click and slice and dice and do lots of things there and can stay 30 minutes every day in your great report, and you will not even know because you only have one entry of a page open or a report open in some cases. So here you get the actual a number of interactions per session, the duration. And of course, right now I see this specific report as these 3 pages. I can see how many users are interacting with these 4 pages and what they do at the different interactions level. Now, I have many things here, but just to show you, for every user and every session on every report and page, I know these things about the users. So Microsoft give you only report views and page views, but I give you visual interactions, clicking on slicers, clicking on bookmarks, tooltips that opens up, the page custom tooltips, drill through activities, clicking on hyperlinks, scrolling down, exports, PDF and PowerPoint exports, and live analysis in Excel. Now, to be transparent, these 3 elements here are from Power BI activity logs, and these 2 can be from, also you can get them from usage metrics, or Power BI activity logs can give you the first report views. But all these things in the middle are only thanks to the instrumentation. And with the data of the instrumentation, what we can show, for example, is even things at the level of a heat map. So just to show you, when I click in on this report, which is an email marketing campaign, I have here all the different visuals and what users clicked on. And when I will go, you can see this is the real page. And you can see the same layout as this one, right? And I can see, I can click on a specific area and it will tell me, okay, this element is a slicer, and these are the values that were selected. So I can now make decisions about changing the layout of different visuals. I can have the same for performance. So you probably know, right? If you want to monitor performance, you need to use Azure Log Analytics or the new workspace monitoring in preview, and that gives you everything into real-time Custo queries. But if you want to kind of like make some priorities and understand things in a higher level, this information in the log analytics is very confusing. In BI Pixie, you can even see things at the level of like the visual level and see which visual got the relevant, which visual is slower. Also in a layout that has a heat map in it. Few more examples just to show you. Data auditing gives you anything that users select. You mentioned, right? You have the government user group. So imagine like auditing scenarios where some agents in an organization may left the company, or their computer is compromised, and they have access to very top security Power BI reports. You want to see what they clicked on, because perhaps it's not them, perhaps someone else clicked there and exported stuff on their behalf. So you can use this to see exactly which values are being clicked from those dashboards. So these are the actual like values that are being selected. See, I can go, for example, on country codes and select country, and you see I have the countries. These values are clicks on different visuals. When I click on Canada here, these are the users that clicked on Canada from these reports and pages over time.
Pretty granular. It's pretty amazing.
So just like to show you like live, here I have an instrumented report. And if I will, for example, go to the slicer here and select China in the slicer, I can see here in real time that there was a visual click event
Wow.
And Canada, where is Canada here? Sorry, slicer event, that's a refresh. Let me do another refresh. Yeah, a slicer event. And I'm scrolling to the right. This is the
Wow.
idea of the visual and the table and column name. So
How
this
much
is the
history can you store, Gil? Like 30 days,
infinite.
7 days, infinite.
So BI Pixie is a managed solution. You host it on your environment.
Yeah.
You have also like 50% of the code you can access and change. The only intellectual property code is the instrumentation techniques, but the rest is your data. And we'll show you now, like I'll show you
Pretty
how the
amazing.
data looks like, and we can do like another quick exercise in Power Query by kind of processing some data that BI Pixie stores for you. But basically this is all. So just to show you here, the implementation, you can decide if on a large scale, you can install it on your Azure. On a small scale, you can install it on your Power Platform. Power Platform it's Dataverse tables with the data. You decide how long you want to store it. The Azure version is on a ADLS storage account. So here you can see all the events that I'm storing for my test account, and under events I have all the clicks and all those activities, but I also have additional elements here that I'll show you in a second. And just like very quickly, just to show you one last thing that I think is super cool is so the idea that when we deliver BI solutions to our audience, the BI solution is a digital product, and it's important if it's important to you, it's important you'll understand your audience and also collect feedback to make informed decision how to optimize your reports and semantic model. So with BI Pixie, you can also decide if you want to add feedback collection controls into the solution. So you can see here in each one of these pages, I have here on the top right a feedback control feature. When I click on the smile, for example, you can see here in the refresh that there is a smile event that was collected. Okay, and also if positive, negative is not enough, I can quickly go to the survey and start. And here you can customize. Imagine you have like 20, 40 reports, and you want to have to ask customer satisfaction about the report, or perhaps about the business that the report is solving. You can use just like a simple JSON file to configure questions and answers, and BI Pixie will add the survey page into the report automatically. It takes 1 minute, and again, when users will click here and select different things, the data is in runtime getting collected here. Also, by the way, to Fabric real-time intelligence, if you want to use that. And then in the dashboard of BI Pixie, you get out of the box user satisfaction analysis. So customer satisfaction on your reports based on the thumbs up, thumbs down, smile, frown, and also analyzing the survey results from those embedded surveys. But now I'll stop here and just will go through, if you are okay with that, because we have a bit more time, I can show you like some Power Query techniques on top of Power BI activity data, which is a public data that everyone can have access to.
Yeah, I mean, people have like 10 more minutes. I'd say let's do it. Why not?
Yeah, I just had one question. What is the data source for the MailChimp's dashboard?
Good question. Yeah, so before BI Pixie, I was delivering, I still deliver those Power BI apps. If you will search, if you'll go to App Source, you'll find this one. This is my Power BI app that I developed using Power Query. Again, like lots of things that I build is thanks to Power Query and the knowledge of Power Query. So this this solution, you can download it and use it. There is a 30-day free trial. If you want to build something more that is not available, you feel free to reach out to me. So this is just an entire, right? This is a real, what I showed you here. Here, this is a real product app that you can take from App Source, and you can just provide your MailChimp access key, and it will connect to your MailChimp and analyze it on your own account. Okay, and this is like from real account of a partner of mine, and I just use again Power Query, complex Power Query logic that I also shared on my blog to obfuscate the confidential data. So you see, I can go here member analysis, for example, and I have like the users here are kind of right obfuscated. But
So
in
now
the version that you have, you will see the real users.
So now this is connected, like the other report in Fabric, this is connected to this report, correct?
Which one? The BI Pixie?
Yeah. No, so the BI Pixie one is connected to this MailChimp one.
So BI, the way that BI Pixie works is that you can use either basically you just provide in your computer, you provide the specific workspace where you want that you want to instrument, and it will fetch the definitions of the report and semantic model, analyze them, add those pixels inside, and from now on, when you publish the report, no matter where you publish it, it can be mobile, Teams, Dynamics, all kinds, any place where the report can be hosted, the usage will be tracked. Okay, so I'm not connecting directly to this, right? Here I'm on an instrumented report. When I click on some stuff, things happen. They happen just because I have pixels, and those pixels are sending information to your BI Pixie on the backend that you will deploy on Azure on your environment. So it all stays in your environment, and the data is getting collected here in this example. Right? So I have here all this information is getting collected in your storage, including log analytics. So here I have performance information. This is all performance information from the workspace that you want, and also Power BI workspace scans that are available here, and Power BI activity logs. In the exercise, what I wanted to do today is to show you to get either the Power BI activity logs or the workspace scan, which is a known format, JSON format that you get from the API, and show you how we can analyze it using Power Query, how we can basically prepare it for analysis using Power Query.
That's interesting.
Okay? Which is basically also what I do in my solution. And just like very, very quickly, just to show, the solution itself has also the lineage from data sources, report, and semantic models. So for example, here, I can get all the connectors in my environment. I can select either entire tenant or few workspaces or the reports that you just want. And I analyze the lineage of them and basically which semantic models are using those connectors, also through all the other data flows and other items, and then reports as well. So I can get a lineage. Now, unlike many other open source solutions or commercial solutions that are focusing solely on how to optimize your measures, unused objects, right? Deleting stuff. Here I wanted to focus on the business outcome of your reports. So when I'm looking on the connectors, as an example, I can measure the connectors by business metrics, not just by some more like technical aspect to get you to optimize a little bit bits and bytes of your solution, but to understand even like customer satisfaction, right? With the surveys, I can see which connectors are better, which endorsed elements are better. And even like if you have a big team of developers, you can basically measure like the developers like in a leaderboard. So you can see like all the developers and how much they are doing, who is leading the, like who has more complex reports or more clicks in the reports compared to others. How much users are staying in the reports compared to others, these kind of things. Yeah.
That's so interesting. So, I mean, this is at an organizational level, and the problem is many of these data streams in the back end, they are configured incorrectly in all the places I went to.
What do you mean data streams configured incorrectly?
So, basically, like the this is great from the user perspective, but within an organization, I sort of came across a lot of misconfigurations in the data pipelines.
Yeah, so when you say a misconfiguration, do you mean like incorrect SQL queries that are exhaustive on performance, or like things that are not connected?
Correct. They're not connected properly, but with your thing, I think it's beautiful because it will actually force the organization to streamline information in the right manner.
Yeah, but absolutely. But I think like the main focus was to give BI developer teams the insight on the business side, like to try to give them KPIs to measure their impact at the business, rather than just all the other things that you can get, right? So instead of just focusing only on how many users are not using their Power BI Pro license today, you can focus on what are my reports are actually delivering to the customers, to the internal customers, what is the value, what is the return on investment, and you can estimate that return on investment by adoption, engagement, user satisfaction, and all the other things. So everything you have from Microsoft, like performance, right? So log analytics, yes, so you can measure the performance of your reports, but imagine now, right? Now, when you have the combination of which reports are slower, so the duration, or which capacities you have are burning CPU, you can now compare that with engagement. So, right, so for example, what is the average time users are staying in the reports or in the pages? So I can now analyze things better, because if you have users that are not staying in reports and you have performance issues, right, then it's like a kind of like the ship already sank. There are reports that are very bad on performance, but nobody is using them anyway. So you there is a lot of effort on your side to fix them. On the other hand, if you have reports right here on the x-axis where users stay a lot in them, those reports you may want to kind of low-hanging fruits, pick here and there and provide minor optimizations. But the idea that you can now, instead of just looking on all the performance on one dimension of what is slow or what is affecting the capacity, you can also combine business measures on top of it to give you better prioritization.
So the idea is to stick this into like the client ADLS or whatever the wherever they've stored.
It's like you basically it's a 1 hour setup, not like 6 months of implementation, like some big consulting firms. If I go to Azure Marketplace, you can see that's like a solution template that you can take from Azure Marketplace. You deploy it, it will instantiate a function app, storage account, event hubs for if you want Fabric real-time scenarios, and it will get you a solution that you can now start instrumenting your reports, like adding the pixels to your report to collect the data that only BI Pixie gives you, and also enrich it with all the other data that you can get from the other Microsoft sources, right? So just to give you a very cool example, the last one, there is an element here about data export, this one. So here you can see, if you would just want, you have many reports, you share them with your customers, and now they start exporting them to Excel, export from visuals to Excel, which on one hand you cannot block because then they will be upset, but on the other hand, it's a very bad practice, right? User experience is bad, performance is bad to export things in Excel from visuals. So today you don't have this information for Microsoft at the level of a visual and report. You just have like something was slow, and you don't know what is that something, because Microsoft will not give you even the visual ID in the log analytics. BI Pixie gets log analytics without visual IDs and correlate it with the information that BI Pixie collects together and give you the information of the exports as well. So either in the heat map, right? So I can select a specific page, right, like by the number of exports or by the performance element. And now when I click on the page, I will see this is the visual that was exported. I get some statistics on the exports. I can even see the DAX query of the export, or I can measure it also for performance-wise, right? To measure what's the performance impact of all the different export activities by users. Sometimes users are more, single users may be very obnoxious in the way that they export stuff, so you can identify them. And these things, the combination of performance information and the visual level is not provided by Microsoft in the data that you have there. So the kind of this kind of correlation with the information that is unique to BI Pixie allows me to give you more capabilities than what you have from the original sources of Microsoft.
That's so cool.
Yeah, and by the way, you are welcome to reach out I can do like a 1 hour one-on-one demo if you're interested. And this is a solution that was meant also, so if you are in a consulting business, we can collaborate on that as well. This is something that any team would be able to deliver just higher value to their clients.
Look, I provide like customized AI and BI solutions. I mean, and it's been very difficult as a consultant, like you said, to get that visibility. And yeah, thanks, Greg, for hosting this. And
Of course.
I think yeah, we should put it out there more on LinkedIn to give that visibility to consultants like Gil and me. We've been struggling in the industry because we provide quality solutions. I mean, for me, I'm more of a backend, and when I see this, it shows me like a user interface, which is excellent, which is like just and supplementing my capabilities. So.
Totally. I think consultants, just industry team developers, just any telemetry, without having to ask somebody is gold, right? And I think the tools, before everybody joined too, I was telling Gil, I'm like, you've been in this game so long, the tools people want, right? We've all wanted them. Again, people have been asking this for years, and Gil took it upon himself to build it. So taking us, I think, through that journey on Power Query, and now I think introducing us to BI Pixie, it's pretty sweet evolution, Gil.
Thank you. And at least the only thing I can say relevant for sure for everyone is, like, I would never be able to deliver a solution, a product without the Power Query expertise. And even if in the future I will need to move to Databricks or Spark. At least I have all the logic working slowly, but working. And like this is something that doesn't stops you on delivering a product and value to customers thanks to Power Query. So anyone here can get this as a way to just get the value faster.
Cool. Well, how about you take a moment to come off mute, and if you'd like to turn your cameras on, folks, let's give Gil a round of applause.